Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ball Not Court Podcast, host Cortez Paul.
Along with my co-host Paul Mack.
I want to thank you folks for tuning in today and listening to the show. Basically, we cover basketball, football, NCAA, or anything that's related to current events with a humorous twist to it at least. You can follow the podcast at BIOC Podcast at X or Twitter. We're also on Instagram at the same name, BIOC Podcast. You go to our YouTube channel, that's also BIOC Podcast. Our Facebook page is Balls Not Court Podcast. So if you could please just give us a like, shout, comment on any of those, and definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Balls Not Court Podcast. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Balls Not Court Podcast. Cortez Paul is here. Mr. Paul Mack, the usual, is here to the right. Kind of did we wasted the whole hour last week recording an episode, and I had issues with echo, so I was able to upload a snippet.
The whole time. Who knew?
So, come to find out that it was something that I thought was on my end, but nonetheless, we all got to figure out. It only took us all of 30 minutes. Me and Paul are
professionals, buddy. We
consider ourselves very tech savvy, but it took some time and, listen to terrible YouTube video advice saying it did echo cancellation or use a pair of headphones.
Turns out if you unplug it and plug it back in, gets it every time.
Hey, he got to do the hot tour on his USB cord.
There she is.
Okay. I'm done. Anywho, NBA draft happened. This was the next.
Before we get into that, man, you've been kind of getting around, huh? You went to the Kennedy Space Center. You just getting your mind right, bud. What's up,
dude? Man, funny story before we go talking about the draft talk. My whole plan was to go to Kennedy Space Center because I remember going a long time ago when I was a kid, and I can't remember Kennedy Space Center that long time ago. So, you know what? Let's go. So I'm thinking it's a Tuesday, shouldn't be too crowded. I get up to go park. There's a line going each direction to go into the Kennedy Space Center. What's really going on? It's a question that I'm asking myself. So I'm telling people, I'm up here. This is the day's adventure. Apparently, SpaceX is launching Falcon Heavy into orbit. I didn't even know. So people from all around, and from the interactions that I heard all around Kennedy Space Center, just different types of culture, just the melting pot. It was crazy. So, I mean, anybody and everybody you can think of was there. So I want to go to all these exhibits and check them out. The IMAX exhibit, every time I got in line, it got full to capacity. So I couldn't watch none of the movies in IMAX. Got on the simulator. That took an hour to wait for a simulator. And I had asked people that have been there before, it usually only take 15 minutes to do that, to wait in line. And you can ride all of them. Take the bus tours. You can go see, the Space Center up and close in person and see their launching stations. By a certain time, you had to have a certain pass. So you say, you know what? And even to wait for food. I waited for food in line for almost 45 minutes.
Space is back, baby. Space is back.
So who would have known? Who Who would have known? And funny enough, I'm like, I had no clue that there was a launch today. So just my luck. I seen a launch, man. So I crossed that off the bucket list. So pretty cool experience. Everybody got into it. It's loud going into the orbit over there. Like I being from far away, you really don't hear all that. But I had the video on loaded up to all the socials and stuff like that. It was cool, man. It was cool. So now I'm gonna go back to Kennedy Space Center, and I got a link that I can need to look when there's not a launch, and really go dive into it.
My man's a space head now,
huh? Exactly, man. So just going around to see how they did, like how they construct Atlantis, and how they really wanted to put the first space shuttle in space, the type of material, the metal that they had to use to construct that, and how many missions it rode, man. So that's history, and I do. I'm just. This is why I love having 3 days off, Paul, because I can do stuff like this instead of having to work like 5 days a week and then 2 days and then you're back to work. Yeah, I work longer days. Like today, I pretty much pulled a 12-hour day, but having 3 days off is glorious. And I get off at like 5 or 6 on Sunday, sometimes about 6:30, but I have the rest of the evening to myself, enjoy myself. Check my emails from time to time, make sure everybody's good, stand by now. Now I got to be even more on standby because my other co-manager, she's on PTO for July 4th. But yeah, man, it was definitely cool, man. So that was my adventure.
My man's always doing something. I'm like, Jesus, this man's getting around. This man's living his
Yeah,
dream.
man. Well, when you're single and have extra money, could kind of just do stuff and no kids and whatnot, I tend to take care of my nieces and nephews when they need it, but for the most part, I enjoy life, man. I'm looking at my next like 3 or 4 day getaway where I usually kind of like track Google flights. I know one time like last year I flew to Atlanta for like $40.
Hell
My
yeah.
brother worked for Lowe's Hotel and kind of used the family and friends discount to go to the hotels over there. So there's a method behind my madness. I'm planning stuff. I'm using like certain days to play around with hotel dates and all that. So Cocoa Beach is a vibe. I'm just mad at myself I don't go to Cocoa Beach more often. I will go more often. It's only like an hour and like 15, 20 minutes away from where I live.
Oh yeah,
And
you're within 90 minutes from pretty much any beach you want to go to.
yeah, but Cocoa Beach it's just so quiet. Very nice little kind of quiet town, beach town. So kind of gave me some vibes when I lived in Jacksonville for a little bit. When you go to Jazz Beach and Neptune Beach, it's a beach town, but it's not as busy as like Daytona or Clearwater and all of that stuff. It's a real nice little quiet beach town. So definitely had a blast, man. So it was fun watching that stuff. So
Oh yeah, bro.
Speaking of
kids, NBA draft was this week.
NBA draft, and this is the weird draft that it's a draft that's before the Cooper Flag draft. Everybody looking forward to that draft next year. As you've seen, a lot of teams have kind of made some moves to kind of gearing up to try to put themselves in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. But we still had this draft here. We still have some talent. I feel like this is going to be one of those weird drafts, Paul, that prior player within like between like the 10s and the 20s is going to probably be the best player in this draft. Could be possibly, but so yeah, the Hawks went with surprise and draft Zachary Richard from France. He's a 3-and-D guy from France. Speaking of France, France is the France is pretty much the first country to ever have like 3 players drafted within like the top 6. So they're like the first country to do that. So, yeah. So they had Alice Sarr, who I initially thought was gonna be number 1 pick, but I the way and I guess the way I heard when the story's coming up is he didn't want to pretty much practice for the Hawks or audition for the Hawks or whatnot, or he just felt like he doesn't need the need odds. He felt like there's a lot of tape of him out there. So I don't know. That was just like a power move by him that he didn't want to get drafted out of the Hawks because I'm pretty sure Intel, you're already looking to break down as we'll talk about a trade that happened with the Hawks already, that they're trying to build somebody out. So but you go to the Wizards, which is not much better. So
I would rather went to the Hawks.
Exactly. So I'm just trying to understand that. But number 1 draft pick money, I think it's like 10. No, it don't went up. I think it's like I can't remember the amount, but I know it's like double digit millions, and then the drop off from that to like the second round is like 9 or something like that. So I mean, I'm not passing up on money if I can be number 1 draft pick. It is what it is. So your thoughts about this overall draft, and I know we watch some of these players that play for the big schools, but are pretty much the college schools that you got from Kentucky and Connecticut and Purdue. Your thoughts about this kid? Because listen, Paul, you know me, I'm the basketball aficionado. I know hoops. I heard about this kid when the draft happened. I knew about Alice Sarr because his brother played in the NBA. And I knew about Reed Shepherd. I knew about Stephon Castle. I did not know about Zachary Richard. And so I'm learning about this kid. I'm learning about him, but
it was an interesting draft because we knew going in that the prospect list wasn't, there wasn't a coveted talent that everybody was kind of fighting for.
mm-hmm.
I watched a lot of the NCAA tournament, so I saw some of these guys, and I knew the Reed Shepherds and the Donovan Clingan and the Rob Dillinghams of the world, Khalil Ware, but a lot of these guys, man, they got picked. It's crazy. I knew more guys that kind of went towards the end of the first round into the second round. Like there was some good names in the second round that some of these guys got. I mean, I personally think, he's a little smaller, but Jamal Shed going to the Kings at 45. He's a guy that got hurt in the NCAA tournament, and probably had he not gotten hurt, Houston would have beat Duke for sure. They would have plowed through NC State. It would have changed the entire landscape of the NCAA tournament. But he got hurt. You had a bunch of UConn guys go towards the end of the second round. You had Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer. These guys are multi-time national champions going at the end of the second round. I mean, it was crazy because I could tell you Kyle Flipowski from Duke. I mean, he fell into the early second round. I know he had a tough NCAA tournament, but I think we just kind of seen the importance of the 3-and-D guy. I think that's kind of the position that a lot of teams realize is a very important role now. And if you can develop the 3-and-D guy, it's a good piece to have. And it also seems like a lot of these teams are drafting and building for the sole purpose of matching up against the Boston Celtics. Like that's literally the vibe I get. They're just getting, long wings to just try to match Tatum and Brown. And you see a lot of the centers. I mean, there's only two centers, I guess, because Zach Edey went way earlier than projected. But I mean, usually centers are a hot commodity. And I mean, there was only four centers taken in the first round.
You got Zach Edey, Khalil Ware from Indiana. Who's
Eves
third?
Missy from Baylor,
Yep.
and maybe that's it. Maybe only 3.
I believe that's it. And then, like you said,
Oh
Flotowski
yeah,
went.
Donovan Klingen went 7.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But he's kind of undersized, I think, as a center. I don't think he's like,
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. Watch him in Portland with Scoop. They just recently made a trade to the Portland Trail Blazers. They added Dini Abedina from the Wizards. Real talented wing, good prospect. You can tell that he was trying to want to get out. There's only so much ball go around. We got Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, but they're on the block too. But I like Donovan Klingen. I forgot. Yeah, literally just passed this guy's name. Like, man, he's up there. But I tell you what's interesting, and the Jazz driving Kyle Flopowski because Walker Kessler has been rumored to be on the trade block. This is a guy still in the rookie contract, and this one point he was in a third for votes for Rookie of the Year. I mean, it was on like a few votes, but he was in the running for it, or he had some votes. So Jazz already looking to, trade this guy, and then you draft a center in the second round. And I mean, it's the second round, but at the end of the day, like that's this guy was projected to go higher.
Mm-hmm.
Like
tough NCAA, he had a tough NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
I think that was one of those days. He got knocked around by what's his face from NC State, DJ Burns. DJ Burns just put it in his chest. I think that kind of raised some red flags about maybe his strength. I'm not too sure, but it is what it is there. But like again, it's just if you look at the first round, a lot of small forwards, a lot of shooting guards, quite a few point guards. But even then, they're very defensive minded point guards. A lot of them. You don't see a lot of like score heavy point guards.
Yeah.
So I really think that we've already kind of seen it this offseason. The 3 and D may be the most important role on some of these teams, especially if you're building.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams are kind of building, and the 3 and D is a guy that if you can get one on a rookie deal, develop him a little bit, then when the time comes, maybe you pay him a little bit more. But if you can get a guy who can play defense, and you don't have to teach defense, and you can just teach him how to shoot, I think it'll be okay. So the 3 and D for me is the big thing that I saw out of the draft, and then obviously the number one thing is just the French Revolution that we saw in the first round. A lot of people from France. 3 guys in the top 10 from France. So it's France is making a real name for themselves as a basketball juggernaut. But yeah, man, we'll see. Zach Edey at 9 was interesting to me. I thought he would have fallen a little bit lower, but I guess Memphis needs a big. So
Steven Adams can't stay healthy. He's older. So I get why they did it. I get it. But you just hope that he can get up to speed with the NBA speed and the pace of the game. Definitely a high court player. And then you think about John Morant, who likes to get up and down. So definitely, I'm intrigued to see how that works out. But we'll see how it works in Summer League. This is why I'm so glad Summer League happened, because now this draft had a lot of questions. It's got a lot of questions. It really does. I mean, this draft has been talked about. I mean, by design, we was talking about Bronny James, or not we, but the media was talking about Bronny James more than some of these other prospects. So I'm waiting for the Summer League. Summer League's going to be super interesting. Me personally, I like what the Magic did. I was all in on Tristan Del Silva. He kind of went at my team, Florida. he had a good showing against an attorney, but he really put a number on Florida. A lot of people are, and I'm trying to temper temper some Magic fans' expectations because at the end of the day, this was a weak draft, and he did go 18, and he's an older player. So everybody's saying that we got someone similar to Franz. No, we didn't. He can shoot better than Franz. Franz is the better athlete. Franz is the better finisher. There's a reason Franz where he's at. Now, I will say this about Tristan Del Silva. I see a lot of Kyle Anderson in him, and I see a lot of young Joe Ingles in him. Someone that plays at his own pace, move at his own speed, slow foot, can shoot the ball, real good team defender, can handle the ball, can pass the ball, can run the ball on the break. He kind of just move at his own pace, and he kind of get just kind of crafty with it. And so when you looked at the bench sometimes for the Magic at times during last year, Paul, there was times that we relied on Franz too much, where he get that little break and then he'll come in and then try to orchestrate the offense. And that's a lot to put on Franz to do that when we ask him to be a number 2 option, but also cater and be able to be a facilitator in that second unit. Tristan Del Silva can help with that. Cole can more play off the ball. And when you're using Tristan Del Silva, you can also utilize Mo Wagner to pick and roll with him. There's just a lot of options that you can do with him. And then Franz can still be able to operate, but you can still kick it to Tristan Del Silva, and he can handle the ball as well. I do expect him to be in the row. And then also we're planning to put Jet Howard in more rotation. Anthony Black can still learn his own pace off the bench with a Tristan Del Silva that can handle the ball. So he really come in and just kind of fill that Joe Ingles role very well. I think we'll still probably sign Joe Ingles to like a minimum contract and just kind of be that player's coach because he seemed to be all about family, and Orlando is a kind of family-oriented city with all the theme parks and everything that's around there. It's more friendly.
Joe Ingles out of Disney World. That's crazy.
Pretty much. So I think he comes back on the minimum and just kind of be that veteran voice in the locker room. I like to have Joe back just for some of these young players to kind of come up to and listen to. And Joe keep the mood light. He's funny. So, and so you hope that, Franz and Tristan and all these other guys, if Joe Ingles does come back. But no, overall, man, I think Orlando did a good job. As usual, they traded a second-round draft pick. That just it's always like a running joke on Magic Twitter that, cash considerations. They even make like a whole.
You only have the one pick.
We traded the second-round pick to the Hornets. No, not the Hornets. We traded to the Pelicans. Sorry. So the Pelicans got the second-round draft pick. So we gave it to them, and the Pelicans ended up drafting Antonio Reeves from Kentucky. So, and it's always our luck that sometimes these players turn out to be pretty decent. It's like, we could have used that. But at the end of the day, I like it. Now, to go on, I thought Nikola Topic, where he went to the Thunder, there was a guy that was supposed to be rejected like a top 5 pick, but he had some injuries issues. You go to a D team like that, where you develop at your own pace, go to the G League, work some kinks out. If he would have fell to 18, I would love to have him. Devin Carter for the Kings is going to be really good. And that's something to watch because De'Aaron Fox is putting the Kings on the clock now. At least that's what he came out and say. So no surprise that the Kings kind of, let's go with a guard. And everybody's been raving about Devin Carter out of Providence. They're saying that he might be possibly the Donovan Mitchell of this draft or somewhere that kind of caliber that got drafted pretty low but really stands out. Wouldn't be surprised if we talk about him. Bub Carrington is one I was kind of tracking too. He got traded to the Wizards. So, and then Dalton Knight from Kentucky, one pick before us. That dude can shoot. Tristan Del Silva can shoot too, but
I'll tell you the crazy thing is Boston at 30, getting Baylor Shireman.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most Boston Celtics pick. That's the most Brad Stevens pick of all time. Just a guy who can shoot, who can handle the ball, white kid from Creighton. You know what I mean?
Just like he's gonna fit in with white and green, right?
That's it. It's the most just Celtic pick of all time.
Boston
white
Sherman! Sherman! They're gonna do some kind of weird chant.
Oh yeah. Nice pasty white kid from Creighton.
Oh man. Some trades happen.
Hold on, wait, before we get to some trades, what about the number 55 pick? We didn't really touch on the 55 pick. How do you feel about Bronny falling to the Lakers at 55? Seems to be the internet talk of the day.
I'm gonna tell you this feeling. I don't know how it feels because I'm not a dad. I don't have any kids. But I wonder how that must feel to have your son play on the same team as you. Like I'm pretty sure that's a surreal feeling. That's you raised this young man to what he is now, and he's playing with you. You have the ability to kind of show him the ropes of the NBA. And if he has a chance to make it NBA, why not learn from his father? That's all the whole we're from the Orlando area, so that's the whole Disney picture of it. That is all glitz and glamour and beautiful, and it's a wonderful story, beautiful story. I don't know what to believe, man.
I think for me, there's a lot of rumors going around that, Rich Paul or whatever was saying like, hey, if you pick him, he's gonna go play in Australia. He's not gonna play for you. He's not gonna do whatever. So everything kind of just went for him to fall to the Lakers at 55. The only issue I have is potentially there are some guys that maybe could have got picked before him. Like there was some talent there after him, but I mean, he was the fourth to last pick of the second round. And we all knew once the Lakers were on the clock, I don't think a pick went in faster in the 2 days than when it said Lakers are on the clock. That pick was in. It was fast. We knew what was going to happen. I don't see anything wrong with it. People are going to be upset because they're going to be like, oh, because his dad's LeBron, his dad's this and that. Look, man, in today's world, if you can find an in, make those connections, find you an in, find you a way to make things happen. I mean, yeah, his dad's LeBron James, but that just shows how much his dad believes in him. The new regime at the Lakers seem to all be buying in. They all believe in him. JJ Redick's first time head coach. He's not going to make a draft pick that he doesn't think he could have some kind of return on. He's a smart guy. He's not going to get immediate returns probably, but he's signed a 4-year contract to be the head coach. So if he makes it all 4 years, who knows? By year 3, year 4, Bronny could be a factor on that team. Obviously, that's leverage now. That's leverage now to kind of keep LeBron too. LeBron potentially is going to opt out. So you can kind of restructure a deal now with LeBron. So there's a lot of things there that kind of is good for everybody. You can't look at his freshman stats and think to yourself like this. He shouldn't be drafted. I mean, he wasn't really in a good situation. He had the cardiac arrest stuff in the preseason before the season even started, so he wasn't really running maximum effort until towards the end of the year anyway. And USC wasn't a good basketball team. So, I'm happy for him. Cool for the James gang. And we'll see in a couple years when it's Bryce's turn what happens, because Bryce is on pace to probably be the better of the two of them, based off of his size and the way he's developing as a basketball player. But I mean, it's just weird to draft two. The Lakers drafted 2 guards, but and then you have Austin Reeves also. Well, no, I guess Dalton Connect's a small forward, but 2 guys that can handle the ball with Austin Reeves. Obviously, probably move D'Angelo Russell. So there's still some things to happen with the Lakers, but I guess it was the story of day 2, but we all knew it was going to
Yeah,
happen. Me
yeah, and
personally, I would have, if I was like Boston or the Knicks, I would have drafted him and then just sent a ransom note to LeBron, like, "Hey man, we got your kid." Do like a Liam Neeson taken situation, just be like, "Hey, look, I got your kid. Here's our list of demands. If you want him that bad, give us, X, Y, and Z." But you know, it is what it is. Bronny's in the NBA, and
yeah,
he made it.
it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I just find it funny because everybody's screaming nepotism, and then of course that clutch sports paycheck must be nice because you hear all these other sports heads saying, "Well, this ain't the first kid nepotism, and you think this is the first." No, we're not saying that. I'm pretty sure it is, and at the end of the day, yes, do what you got to do, get your foot in the door, because at the end of the day, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And honestly, LeBron just got a bigger limelight on it. And LeBron put this pressure on Bronny, unfortunately, with saying some of the stuff that he did about him. I know he went down, with this medical element that he had, and now he can develop at his own pace. So you hope to see what he can bring in the summer league. You hope to see what he can do in the G League, and just grow up. Because at the end of the day, this is Bronny's walk into the NBA, and this is his journey, and we'll see where it goes. But we already knew pretty for the most part the Lakers was going to draft him. Like,
Yeah, it
and
was.
this,
Yeah,
and yeah. So, um, but yeah, let's transition to some of these trades because this is setting up to be a crazy free agent here, and free agency open up in a few days, and so you can tell all this like kind of precursor to the movements and the trades and stuff like that is happening. Paul, I want to give you the floor first and talk about the Knicks acquiring Michael Bridges. It seemed like the Villanova crew is coming apart here. They linked up again. This is quite a story with this trade here. Before I go into my thoughts, I want to hear from a Knicks fan himself about acquiring Michael Bridges with the core that you have there and in the Knicks land over there.
I think jokingly, this was talked about last season. I think anytime that the Knicks played the Nets, it was kind of like, oh, how long till they get Mikal Bridges and just put all those Villanova guys back together. Um, I think it was a great trade for the Knicks because, again, like I said before, it seems like a lot of teams are gearing up to play the Boston Celtics, and
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges is a guy plays all 82 games. He's not an injury prone guy, mind you. He hasn't played for Tom Thibodeau yet, but he played all 82 games. He's a great 3-point shooter, a lengthy wing. He's a really good defender, and I think he can cause problems. For the Celtics and guys with long wings like Jason Tatum and those kind of guys. So I think they filled the need because as scrappy as the Knicks were in like the postseason and towards the end of the season, they were kind of small. They were very small. They didn't have a lot of length.
Yeah.
And like you said, like with Orlando, the Magic may not be, they may have some of the best talent, but they got length, and length goes a long way when you're guarding some of these teams. If you can just throw, quick-footed, long, lengthy guys out there, it can cause problems. And then Magic matched up with Boston very well. They held their own against us all last year. We talked about it that if Boston would have played Orlando in the postseason, it could have been an interesting little series, just because of Orlando's length. So to add a guy with not just length, but is also a high 30% 3-point shooter. He can shoot up around 33-35%. Shoots a high volume, but I mean he kind of had to with the Nets. But I mean even when he was in Phoenix, he's still a knockdown 3-point shooter. He's a hell of a defender. He's durable. So the Lord knows the Knicks need durability. So now So now you pair that up with the crazy contract that they gave OG Anunoby, which is just we're going to pay him whatever we have to pay him just so no one else can have him because we need him to beat the Boston Celtics. That is literally the thought process that the Knicks have right now is their only concern going into next season is what can we do to beat the Boston Celtics. And the shitty part is giving OG that kind of a contract. Obviously, you're most likely going to lose Hartenstein, which he was a big part of that playoff run. He kind of really emerged, as a dominant kind of rim protector, rebounder, just a good facilitator for a big man. So, that kind of stinks. So it's a matter of, where will he land? But, you have a little bit of depth now. The lineup is interesting because obviously now someone like a Josh Hart may go back to being a bench guy.
Mm-hmm.
One of those, 6-man come off. He's the first guy off the bench. He's going to play big minutes.
I think Dante DiVincenzo is probably go back to the bench too.
Yeah,
because you got to play OG and Mikal Bridges. So Mikal Bridges is probably going to play the 3, and OG is probably going to play the 2, or they can just interchangeable there.
Yeah.
Paul, let me ask you a question in regards to this, because just me speaking, what I would have done is OG was already kind of like on the fence about signing back with the Knicks. Why not invest into like Hartenstein? And then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I think Nuggets came out saying that if someone throws a ridiculous number to them, they're not matching them because they believe in Christian Brown and the depth that they have. This is why you draft well a team like the Nuggets. They can afford that and just use that money elsewhere to kind of alleviate what they need to do. They're losing someone like a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. But I thought you still signed Mikal Bridges, who's a great – he's still a good defender. You still got a good team defense with that. Like, and then you add Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who is a 3-and-D guy. You got Hartenstein, who's a great rebounder. Mitchell Robinson blocks everything, or he tries to block everything. Jericho Sims is a nice little piece. Yeah, he tries. So, I probably would have went that route, just throwing that out there. But I get why you got OG Anunoby, because as you mentioned, everybody's trying to gear up to play these wings now, a la Boston Celtics, that have these threat to where you have 2 big wings that can handle the ball and super athletes. And then not only that, just not match with the Celtics. You got Anthony Edwards out there. You got all these other guys, Devin Booker, and you got, I mean, the list go on about talented wings that we have in the league here. You got to throw people at Luka Doncic. You got to throw people at just all these other types of players in there. So I get why you sign back OG.
The Tyrese Halliburtons of the world. Like, I know he's a point guard, but he's a long guy. He could shoot. So, you need to be able to cover a lot of ground. And, like we've mentioned before, it's not really a big dominant league. I mean, obviously, Jokic wins MVP because he's Jokic and he just does things that no one else is doing. And he's the main facilitator on that team. And if he's not on that team, their trajectory is way different. But, there's less than a handful of bigs that you really got to worry about. They're going to go out and hurt you night in, night out. So to invest that money in a big, when you're in the Eastern Conference, which isn't really a big dominant conference anyway, I mean, you got to worry about Joel Embiid, but that's really it. I mean, Bam Adebayo, so there's not a lot of bigs to risk letting OG get away, especially at his age. And I still think he has a lot of upside, man. That game he had before he hurt himself in the postseason, he was having the game of his life, man. He's a knockdown corner 3-point shooter. He could slash to the rim, and he's a lockdown defender. Like if there's anything you need to beat the Boston Celtics, it's those 3 things. And OG has all those things. And he was on a championship team in Toronto.
Yeah,
he's tasted a championship. Is he worth $212 million? NBA money is crazy. I mean, NBA money is NBA money. I mean, they're giving all kinds of money to people. So, I mean, Emmanuel quickly just got $175 million. This is a guy that the Knicks let go to get OG Anunoby. So, I'm glad they were able to keep him because he is, as we saw when he was out in the postseason, their defense is way different without him. And as better as they got on defense with Mikal Bridges, they are a significantly better defensive team with OG Anunoby. So you pair OG with Mikal Bridges, you're pretty much shutting off, two sides of the court, and you're forcing teams to potentially just come at you in the paint. And then it's just a matter of, can you protect the rim? So I like it. I like the moves, and honestly, they got Mikal Bridges for some draft picks and stuff. It didn't cost them a whole lot. I mean, I think they're banking on being a good team for the next handful of years, so they don't really need draft picks.
The thing that worried me about the draft picks, though, Paul, this is me just thinking, because if you still don't keep Jalen Brunson around, you just pay this much money to OG and Anunoby. Those are like plug and plays that you can kind of peel and like hold in your roster. Like, I don't know. But the picks, that's why they do it every other year. So you have picks in between. I don't know. I felt like that was a lot of draft capital. And you just really hoping
they're banking on the power of friendship. They're just hoping that when contracts are expiring, that all these Villanova guys will just want to play together, and they'll just play for whatever.
Just
friends,
for the vibe.
Friends, bro.
Just for the vibes. But yeah, man, you just hope that if winning is going to follow this and continue to follow this, okay, yeah, OG got paid. All right. Well, or do we like to keep winning? Do we want to keep this and everything like that? Like, do we continue to take pay cuts and be competitive? It's going to be choices to make. But Michael Bridges on his big contract, so eventually there's got to be a decision to be made here. And then I'm still trying to learn all these cap rules that you got going on that just got implemented this year, and it's I got to get a capologist on this show one day. It's gonna happen, man.
The new CBA too, man, because I think most teams you could do what 2 max guys now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe be like Minnesota and somehow overpay 3 guys, but those are expiring contracts soon enough. I think Rudy Gobert is kind of towards the end of that contract, which would free up Minnesota to do some things. But again, if you're winning, it looks great. So like for Minnesota, you look at their roster, and they're paying a lot of money. Pretty much, 80% of their payroll is like 4 guys.
Yeah,
you're paying Gobert, Towns, and Edwards, and then Jaden McDaniels gets a nice little contract too. Mm-hmm. So those 4 guys are eating up all your cap space. So obviously, when Rudy Gobert, when he has to restructure, that might give him some money. But the difference with Minnesota is they're winning right now, and Anthony Edwards was able to get his money. So those other max deals didn't stop Anthony Edwards from getting his money, which would have been probably the bigger problem. If you overpaid Towns and you overpaid Gobert, and you can't long-term sign, your franchise guy, it looks bad. But they're able to make it work, and I think Gobert has like a year or 2 left, and then that comes off. But you just got to look at who you're giving money to, man, and the money's wild. There's a lot of money out there to be given away, and we just hope that someone like OG can stay healthy and he can, make the most out of that money, because $212 million is a lot of money.
Yeah,
for a specialist, a guy who was just a 3-and-D kind of guy, man got paid.
Very true. Hey, break to me what the Hawks are doing there, because now they just go ahead and commit to Richard, the number 1 draft pick from France. They done traded Devontae Murray, and he's got traded to the New Orleans Pelicans for Larry Nance, Dyson Daniels, and the Pelicans would send the Los Angeles first round pick in 2025, and then at least the least favorable of the 2027 pick between the Pelicans and the Bucks. At this point in the juncture, what Atlanta's doing is pretty much what should be done. Commit to the rebuild, shed all the salary cap, give yourself some flexibility. If one of these guys do hit one of the draft picks, got Larry Nance, that's a veteran. Probably, I'm imagining, I got to look at his contract. I'm pretty sure Larry Nance is probably an aspirant. So, but Dyson Daniels is an intriguing young piece that can be added to this core. They already got Jalen Johnson, who's a stud. So you already teaming up with this core here. And now, what do they do with Trae Young?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of give myself a pat on the back because like 2 months ago when the season was over and we were talking about, the Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young and what are they going to do? I said I think they deal DeJounte Murray. I think there's a lot of value in DeJounte Murray, and he's the guy. They were looking at trading him. His name was cut up a lot last year on the trade deadline. So I mean, we know they were looking to move him if the pieces were right, and then obviously the way things ended last season, he's the guy that they're going to move. I still think they're probably going to move Trae Young. I don't see why you would get rid of DeJounte Murray and draft a guy, number one, and then just kind of give Trae Young these pieces, especially in the league that we have already said it's kind of transitioning to. I don't think Trae Young is a guy that you can build your franchise around. I think they're going to put all their eggs into the basket of the number one pick this year. Just developing him, putting pieces around him that complement him, and let Trae Young go be a Robin somewhere. I think he'll be a great Robin. Give him the right environment. Pair him up with someone like a Victor Wembanyama. Give him that. Give him a. He's already come out and said he loves Wembanyama. He thinks he's gonna be one of the best players of all time. He has the full endorsement there. So, for Trae Young, I just hope that Atlanta does right by Trae Young. I just hope they put him in a position to where he gets to go to a good place and have a chance to win, because he's a great player and he gave it all he had in Atlanta. I mean, he had some wild games and he always played hard and he did what he had to do, but sometimes it's just not right there, and you can't hang around forever. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not sure what his contract's like, what kind of, trade clauses he has, but I see before the offseason is over, I see Trae Young going as well and them getting more kind of young pieces to build around this already young core that they have. So we'll see, because, there's a lot of teams that can use a Trae Young.
Yeah, but I would definitely make sure that you put him by a defensive ace, but you got someone that can really spread the floor, run the offense for you. Turns a little bit too high, but Trae Young has been to the Eastern Conference Finals a few times, and just the pieces around him just didn't work out, and that's how it goes. And you get to a point where sometime the league just catch up, or at least the Eastern Conference just catch up to you, and at this point you're risking of being a middling team because you was at a near pinnacle that you could have threatened NBA Finals berth or something like that with Trae Young. He is a talent, man. He is definitely a talent, and I'm a little confused why people think he doesn't have that much value. I mean, yeah, could be a Robin somewhere, but that's still someone that can spread the ball, can handle the ball, shoot, got look confidence to him. So you pair him with someone like a Victor Wembanyama, I mean, you got someone that can cover your mistakes on defense. I have seen plenty of time with guards that has limited capabilities on defense and have a stalwart like post presence on defense, and it makes a difference. So I do think, eventually he will get traded. And let's like to see where he's gonna get traded. So some other trades that happened, Tim Hardaway got traded recently. He got traded to the Detroit Pistons. I know his dad mentioned something about him being traded. Wasn't happy how things ended in Dallas.
I mean, he wasn't even cracking the rotation towards the end of the postseason.
No. So Tim Hardaway, 3 second-round picks for Quentin Grimes. Well, Detroit gets some additional draft capital, second-round draft pick and get money and whatnot. They do got to pay Cade Cunningham. So you put someone like a Tim Hardaway towards him and go from there. But Detroit has still got to construct some teams around him as well, around Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. So that's a trade that happened. As you mentioned, about quickly getting paid.
There's some good pieces in Detroit, man. Like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. Like there's some good pieces there. If they can just get some veterans over to Detroit, man, that can help those guys out. I mean, they won't be a playoff team, but I think those guys have high ceiling, man. Jalen Duren had some huge games last year. You know, guy's a glass cleaning monster, and then I think the only issue you have is you basically have two guards that require the ball in their hands with Ivy and Cunningham, but Cunningham's hurt a lot. But he is the better of the two, so you will have to pay him.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid this offseason too. He's due for a contract extension. So
yeah, it's interesting, how Detroit can kind of work on building that. So there's a lot of these young teams, man, and that's why free agency right now. This year's free agency, there's a lot of guys out there that are going to be way more impactful than probably 90% of these draft picks that were taken this year. So it's really just interesting to see where a lot of these free agents are going to fall. You still got Paul George out there. You still got Klay Thompson out there. Chris Paul is apparently going to try to get out of Golden State.
So he pushed back his guarantee date to June 30th for them to look for a trade partner, so he can guarantee his $30 million. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you Chris Paul, you may be playing in Atlanta somewhere.
I mean, I don't think he has much of a choice at this point of his career.
You want to get paid that $30 million. You'll get paid, man. Now I'm interested, man, to see what happens with free agency. That should be starting in a couple of days here. A lot of moves going to be happening. Going to stay locked into Twitter always. The time I do have. So it should be fun.
Just wait for those. Close this up. Wait for those per Woj tweets, man. Those are the ones I was looking for. Per Woj.
Oh yeah, per Woj. And I'm not going to leave without mentioning this, but the WNBA All-Star voting returned. The first vote returns. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston is 2 and 3. Fever players. Exposure is helping them, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Aaliyah Boston's good, man. Aaliyah Boston's real good.
Oh, she's a hooper. I'm glad she's getting the shine.
Having Caitlin Clark on your team to where every single one of your games is on national TV, that helps a lot. 100%.
Asia Wilson's leading this category, but it's not by much. 217,000 votes for Asia Wilson, 216,000 votes approximately for Caitlin Clark.
Which just sounds crazy.
Leah Boston at 171. Brianna Stewart's at 151. Arike is at 130. Sabrina Ionescu is at 118. Angel Reese is at 118. Oh, Ricky's pulling some good votes here, huh? Kelsey Plum's at 117. Napisha Connor, she's a dog. She's a hooper. She played for Lynx.
Yep.
103,000. It's good for the WNBA.
I mean, those are crazy. Those are crazy vote numbers.
They are.
Mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people voting for the WNBA, and good on them. Good on the W. But it's. I found myself watching some games, man. I try. It gets hard sometimes. Like it gets hard sometimes. But
I catch myself watching them too. Yeah. I
there
get where
there
you're
there
coming
are
from.
there are some players that are really good, man. Like last night, I watched Jewel Lloyd put up 30
Oh,
something on the Fever, man. Straight
Seattle,
put.
right?
Yep, you put her up against Caitlin Clark on Amazon Prime, and she said, "Oh, you're gonna put me on a big stage? I'm gonna outshine Caitlin Clark." And she wiped the floor with Caitlin Clark. So I mean, it's stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's a lot. There's a lot there. I mean, obviously the aces are stacked. Um, you know, and even the really good teams, like it's tough because they're on like a kind of a condensed schedule because of the Olympics and stuff. So they're playing a lot of games early. Like there's literally like the Sun just played a back to back and lost to the Atlanta Dream because they played yesterday. So they're on a super condensed schedule. They're playing a lot of games. The only like tough part is there's only 12 teams. So I mean you're getting a lot of the same teams kind of playing each other. Um, but yeah, man, there's a lot of talent, and you didn't see it until now. And I think I think the difference. I heard someone mention this on something I was listening to that the draw of Caitlin Clark is kind of similar to like why someone like Asia Wilson is your number one vote getter, is because when she's out there, I mean she plays like she's like watching one of the men out there. Like she's doing things that these NBA guys are doing that make people want to lock in and watch. Like she's grabbing rebounds, she's prime time. And you have someone like Caitlin Clark, who's the closest thing that the WNBA has had to a Steph Curry probably since like a Sue Bird or somebody came into the league, where she's just able to handle the ball, play from the perimeter, shoot from 30 feet out. Like it's those are the things that people want to see. So to have someone be able to go do those things, yeah, it helps. I think it's less about being a white girl from Iowa. I think it's just the way she plays. And you're going to start seeing now that you're getting a lot of these games on TV, like the Jewel Lloyds, the Skylar Diggins Smiths. A lot of these girls can hoop, and you just don't see them because they're playing on Ion TV or the Oxygen Channel or wherever the hell they were playing WNBA games before Taylor Clark came in the league and all these TV contracts came out. So I mean, I'm excited for the future, man. I mean, Sabrina Ionescu has been balling. Absolutely balling, and she's another one. Like she gets all this notoriety and all this publicity because of how she plays. People want to see you
Just
knock down those 30-foot 3-pointers. They want to see you just amped up all the time. They want to see you just have some kind of swagger about you. I mean, she just got her second Nike shoe this week. Just came out.
yeah. Wait till they
So,
add page backers to this page next year.
so
UConn
it's
wing. If she didn't have that injury, man, and I'm glad she's going back another year. She's gonna be good.
yeah, man.
She's gonna be good. So the
You
WNBA
have
is in a good spot right now.
you have the
Seriously.
emergence of Kalia Copper on the Phoenix Mercury. She's another name that she's on the Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of cool stories, and a lot of these women are taking full advantage of the notoriety that they can get from playing against Caitlin Clark, from being on national TV, from
Yep.
doing all these things that they weren't getting before. So just kudos to the WNBA. Yeah, we love to see it, and I just want to see it kind of continue, and I want to see them keep integrating with the NBA and partaking in NBA events and All Star weekends and all this stuff to just help get that exposure. I really think that the Sabrina Ionescu versus Steph Curry thing during NBA All Star Weekend brought a
Kind
lot
of
of
help.
eyes. Brought a lot of eyes. So you had that plus Caitlin Clark, plus Angel Reese, plus all this other stuff. The Aces going for a three. There's all these stories that were happening. I think it really helped bring a lot of eyes in because you literally took someone. And again, the WNBA isn't nationally televised a whole lot. You get some games on ESPN, a game here on ABC, whatever. So you take one of their top players, you put him against one of the top men in the NBA, and she holds her own. I still think if you run that back, she might beat Steph Curry.
It's close.
I mean, she was pretty close. You know, and the fact that she said, "No, I'm gonna shoot from the men's 3-point line. I'm not gonna. I don't want to shoot from the women's. I want to straight up mano a mano with the quote unquote best shooter in the history of the NBA." It just adds a swagger to the WNBA that I don't think people realize that they had. And the sucky part is they've kind of had it the whole time, just no one knew about it.
Yeah. 110%, man. 110%. WNBA is trending in the right direction. So good breakdown on that, Paul. I knew you. We always like throw some WNBA in there, and I then forget about you with the first returns of the WNBA All-Star voting. So, all right, let's close this bad boy up. We got an hour out of it, so no audio issues. We're good. You'll get our full episode. So, thanks for having it, Fitz. It works. So, make sure y'all stay tuned. Me and Paul next week. Pretty sure we'll have a better landscape of what happened in free agency. With all the prospective teams, and I know a lot of rumors going around, so a lot of gotta check Twitter here after I get off this call before I go to bed and hit an early day into work tomorrow. But make sure you follow the podcast page. It's on Twitter. It's at BLC Podcast. You can find me at _CP, Mr. Mac.
I'm on X at _Paul_Mac and on Instagram at thePaulMac520. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. You can also get us on Instagram, BLC Podcast. We're on TikTok, BLC Podcast. We are on Facebook, Balls Not Court Podcast. Give us a like, comment, shout there. YouTube page is also BLC Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, iHeart, Windows, Google Podcasts. You got Spotify, or as one of the great legends on this show, you say, wherever you found before, you get the content pretty much anywhere. We do appreciate you, the ones that do listen and take the time to kind of hear us break down some sports. Always a good, fun hobby as always. Technical difficulties does come up from time to time. We appreciate you working with us, and we'll be back at it next week. So speaking for Mr. Paul Mack, this is Cortez Paul. The Balls Not Court Podcast is signing off. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Peace.